My goodness. A lot has happened in the last 48, 72 hours, and we're going to cover it all right here, only as we can. We're going to start with the assassination attempt on the president. We're going to talk about the selection of JD Vance and a massive decision in Florida that I'm very proud of because our people at Landmark Legal Foundation played a very significant role in that. I do want to say up front, a lot of people on radio and TV are commenting on what's taking place in Milwaukee and on politics, and it's very, very important that they do. We want to hear from everybody. In 1976, as a young Turk, I campaigned for Ronald Reagan in Pennsylvania, and the Republican establishment said he can't win. He can't win. And they backed Gerald Ford. 1980, I campaigned for Ronald Reagan again. The Republican establishment in Pennsylvania said he can't win. They got behind George H.W. Bush. They were wrong on both accounts. Sometimes you have Republican candidates for president who are so powerful in and of their own personalities, their charisma, their positions, and so forth. It doesn't matter who they pick. That's Donald Trump. It didn't matter who Ronald Reagan picked. He was told, pick George H.W. Bush, unite the party. He didn't need to, but he did. And he won in two massive landslides having absolutely nothing to do with George H.W. Bush. And Donald Trump is poised to win bigly, assuming you and I and everybody we know get out and push hard. And it didn't matter and wouldn't matter who his pick was. Now, already they're trashing JD Vance. He was a never-Trumper. They point to 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, 2016 was a brutal primary. Ted Cruz, who I had supported, others had supported. But then the primary's over, and you support the nominee, in this case, Donald Trump, who has become a dear friend of mine, and vice versa. Just as Donald Trump early on in his career was a Democrat, fairly liberal, then he was part of the Reform Party, and then he became a Republican. Or Ronald Reagan, who was a New Deal Democrat, said the party left him and became the most conservative Republican president in history. And we can go on and on about our own family members and so forth and so on. So the media try and create the impression that, oh, look at this, J.D. Vance is a hypocrite. You know what's funny? Notice they never talk about Kamala Harris in that 2016 debate where she ripped the skin off of Biden on his racism. And he picked her. They don't bring that up. They're bringing up J.D. Vance's age. He's 39 years old. Only 2 years in the Senate. When Barack Obama ran for president, wasn't chosen as a vice president, he had 2 years in the Senate, a failed candidacy for the House of Representatives, a few years in the state Senate in Illinois, and before that he was basically a community rabble-rouser, an Alinskyite. He had no resume, nothing. Once again, the media, even some in our media, ignore them. Use your own head. I'm not a politician. I'm not part of the Trump campaign. I call things as I see them. We've had at least 8 years of a coordinated, systematic effort to dehumanize Donald Trump by the Democrat Party and their media and academia, day after day. And all throughout, I've been on the radio, and I've commented on it, and I've denounced it. We even reminded around here a few weeks ago, I even said, about Joy Reid and her constant references to Hitler and Trump, that I fear for Donald Trump. I worry about his well-being. And it's not the first time I said it. Now, there's not a direct corollary, not yet, between one or the other. But when it becomes part of the common vernacular, the common discussion, in a media that is 95, 98% Democrat Party surrogates, it becomes part of the media culture. It becomes a truism. This kind of fear-mongering and scaremongering, it has an impact on the psyche of a lot of people. I think I've led the effort here saying stop calling Trump Hitler. Stop saying he's going to imprison his political opponents. Stop saying he's going to have people executed. Stop saying he's going to destroy democracy. I've called out the individual reporters at CNN and MSNBC, on the New York Times and the Washington Post payroll. I'm calling them out all the time. The things that they say. And so I'm supposed to sit here, my first opportunity to speak to you since Saturday in the assassination attempt. Oh, my God. 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, and Donald Trump would have been shot in the back of the right side of his skull and dead right there and then. How horrific that he turned his head, calling for his graphic. And yes, that's divine intervention. That's Hashem. That's God. Just imagine that. Terrible. Sickening. And we'll get into this. To watch Joe Biden yesterday give his speech about unity was pathetic. Why was it pathetic? For several reasons. Joe Biden has spent an entire career, 50 years in Washington, D.C., destroying people's characters and smearing them. Whether it's Clarence Thomas or Sam Alito or Bob Bork, whether it was Ronald Reagan, Donald Trump, he's a very hateful, nasty individual. Early in his career, siding with the racists and the segregationists because he thought it was an opportunity for him. The things he said about jungles and interracial public schools are horrendous. Even since then, he has said many racist things. The media have given him a pass. Media have protected him. He didn't, during the course of that speech, ever take any responsibility as the leader of the nation and the Democrat Party for any of it. When the day before President Trump was shot, he reportedly told donors to put a bullseye on him. Obviously, he didn't mean to kill him or to have him assassinated, but when you use this kind of rhetoric, and when you give a speech like you did at Independence Hall a few years back, horrendous, with all the lighting and so forth, and when your campaign is focused almost exclusively that Donald Trump will destroy our democracy, that Donald Trump is a racist, when your surrogates are calling him Hitler, repeatedly, in the media, on MSNBC and CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post giving voice to these people, giving them platforms? The effort to dehumanize Donald Trump, as I've said now for years, to dehumanize him, was a strategic effort by the media, the Democrat Party, and their very choice of guests to comment on it, to dehumanize him, to dehumanize the tens of millions of people who support him. Hillary Clinton, it's been constant. Bernie Sanders, it's been constant. AOC, the list is infinite. But the number one person on that list is Joe Biden, who took no responsibility and didn't apologize. Instead, he lectures the nation. This is a very violent Democrat Party. We've talked about it here. Very violent. 2020. As that was going on, Democrats in the media, Democrats in the Democrat Party were either defending or downplaying what was taking place in our streets. The riots, the arson, the assaults. The entire Black Lives Matter movement, the Antifa movement, the smearing of police officers, local police in particular, rampant crime in our streets, violence everywhere. Since October 7th of last year, the virulent, Jew hatred, attacks on Jews, physical attacks on synagogues, on Hillels, on young kids wearing yarmulkes or the Star of David, or with Jewish names. Precious little was said by the Democrat Party leadership, just enough to get by. And the same with the Biden administration. Slow to act, if they acted at all, with all the means they had provided by the Trump administration, prior administrations on hate crimes and so forth. The ability to deport people who are here on student visas, nothing. The ability to use the bully pulpit to condemn these universities and colleges, virtual silence. The relentless attack, vicious attack on Benjamin Netanyahu, just like against Trump. Just like against Bork, just like against Thomas, just like against Alito. It's a tactic. Target and character assassinate. That was Saul Alinsky. That was Vladimir Lenin. We know this is what was taking place. We talked about it as it was taking place. The fact of the matter is, no, we can't tie anything specifically to this 20-year-old murderer who murdered a wonderful patriot who was protecting his family. He was shot in the head. And the other two Trump supporters who are in critical condition, of which we know very little. The President of the United States, by the blink of an eyelash, almost was executed in front of the whole world.